Hi, beautiful souls. This is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm here to share with you the Aurum Lenormand by Melissa Wotherspoon. This deck came out in 2019 and it was recently sent to me by Melissa herself. I'm really intrigued with this deck and I've done a few readings with it already. It's reading really, really well and I love the artwork. The background artwork as well as the addition of the gold paint, the gold that heals. And so this gold paint is inspired by the Japanese art of kintsugi, the art of, we'll look at the guidebook in a little bit, of repairing pottery with lacquer that has gold dust or silver dust or platinum dust in it. And she's done a beautiful job with these cards. And there's something about this gold line that adds this extra layer of story. And I know, like, Lenormand is read in a certain way in pairs and triplets and so forth, with knighting and diagonals and all these things, but this gold paint has a way of weaving its way in the story, or its absence of connection is definitely noticeable especially in a larger spread. And so I'm really intrigued with this extra layer. So here's the extra card. L is her son. I believe her son was part of the spreading of the gold paint. So that's really lovely. Here's the rider card. And so you can see how the gold weaves its way through here and possibly may connect to the adjacent card. And it is, like I said, it's really, really intriguing. The artwork is all in sepia tones and various gradations, of black and white. And so that little splash of gold is it's really kind of special. And on each of the cards, you have the number and then the title of the card. And in order to get the playing card associations, you need to go to the little white book. Oh, I didn't notice this before. It's like the gold has decorated the chimney as well too. That's really sweet. And I love all of her choices for the artwork. And this is unusual. Usually the dark and the light is on the left and the right side. In this case, it's in the bottom and the top, or a different direction. But we definitely have the clearing towards the top of the card, which will look great in a 9 card and a larger spread. Snake. And the coffin. And so this deck is really great in multiple layers for directions because the tail of the snake is not appearing here. So you have this other kind of connection to an adjacent card. And I think these facings in Lenormand are really, really helpful. And I love that she did the decorative kintsugi on the vase in the bouquet. That was really clever. And here is the scythe, which is quite faded in the background. You can't really tell where the scythe begins and the wheat ends, which is maybe okay. And it almost looks like a splash of blood in the background. Okay, maybe a little bit gory. Whip and birds. And I'll show you too the size of these cards in comparison to some other Lenormand cards in a moment. And when we get to the end, I will explain to you who the child is, because the child is connected into the network of this deck. It's a very, very sweet fox. And the mama polar bear with her mouth wide open. Star. And the way that's drawn, it's easy to bring in the whole idea of the navigation as well too. The direction. Stork. And the stork is in flight. And the dog, which you'll recognize as I see now. I'm noticing all these extra touches. So here we have the collar. The dog collar is the gold as well too. If you have her Dacia and Terra, which I recently did a walkthrough of, you'll recognize the dog. And the tower. in the garden, which could be confused for the house, but we do have the title on here. Because the garden is in the dark, it's maybe a little harder to identify as the garden. And the mountain. And again, we have a dark and a light side on the mountain, and the gold has, it's like a secret passage through the mountain. At least that's what I see it as. Let me just kind of move these over. And then the crossroads. We can go right or left. And the kintsugi even repairing the ring. And woven into the binding of the book, which is kind of cool. Now, I've never had a deck where the book is kind of hanging in the direction that it is. So for me, that was a little confusing when I saw this card for the first time. But the book is open. And the letter. And the man, who looks very goth and mysterious. And the woman. They look very good together. Here is the lily, which looks more like a lotus to me. Or perhaps a peony even. Anyway, very pretty lily card. And there's the sun and the moon. Sometimes it's nice to see them together. And the key. The fish. And the anchor. I think it's really clever the way she's included this, and the cross. And so here is the extra card. This is called the person card, and then here is her sun. And I'm just going to read you a little bit from the guidebook. I have added an optional unnumbered person card, as the system comes from a history where gender binary was the norm. The person in this deck is based on a friend of mine, Amy, who is an ally, a member of the LGBTQ+ community, and a strong advocate for people of diverse abilities. The child in this deck is Amy's son, Emmett. Both Amy and Emmett live with Marfan syndrome, which is a rare condition that affects connective tissues. Amy and Emmett will experience a lifetime of monitoring and life-saving surgeries. They are, in a sense, like kintsugi. And she's got a link here to marfan.org to learn more about this condition. This deck is dedicated to Amy and Emmett, and a portion of the proceeds will go towards the Marfan Foundation. As far as the size of the cards, this is the Anna K. Lenormand. And I believe it is exactly, it's just a little bit. So the Anna K's got the black background. So it's approximately the same size. It's a medium-sized Lenormand deck. It's a little bit wider. I've got a couple here. Here's the C.L.O. Thompson's Scrying Ink Lenormand, and just about exactly the same size. So it's definitely not a mini, and it's not an oversized. So if you have a fairly decent size, this is Anna's a little bit wider than Anna's. So if you have a decent size, like a reading table, it'd be no problem to do a 36 card spread with these cards. Before we go to see the cards all spread out on the table, I thought I would just show the guidebook to you. So here at the top, you have the playing card association for each of the cards. And I'll just read one of them for you so you get a flavor for her descriptions. This is often seen as a card relating to health. If it is close to the significator card, it can mean health and being grounded. If it is far from the significator, attention to health is suggested. It relates to the body, to growth, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, etc., as well as to ancestors, history, and the past. It can often indicate how past events affect the current situation. It sometimes means stillness. And in a Grand Tableau, the house focus question, how is your health impacted by this card? How can you become more grounded? So that's a kind of a nice inclusion in her little book. All right, so let's go to the Grand Tableau. This is a Grand Tableau that I lay for myself in response to seeking clarification for my card of the month, which is death. And I did not do my year ahead reading until the 20 something of the month. So my months are going to be going from the 20th to the 20th. And I wanted to do it around then, around the energy of the new moon, and just kind of working and staying with that energy. So this is my month will go right through February. So I really wanted to kind of begin to explore the energy of death and what that was meaning for me. And yeah, this spread is just speaking really clearly. There's a few things I wanted to point out, and one is that when you see the cards laid out in the Grand Tableau, you can see how certain cards are interconnecting. And I don't know in the light here if you can see, but just the way the gold from the heart is feeding right down into the house and then down into the sun. I can really see how this is going to draw attention and bring confirmation to how certain cards are describing each other. And in contrast, where there are broken lines, such as the fox not connecting to the lily here, this may just bring a layer of insight, an additional layer of insight into your reading. And of course, I'm fully aware that Lenormand is read in a certain way with certain traditions, but this extra layer of the gold that heals is just really, really special. So thank you very much for joining me for this walkthrough of the Aurum Lenormand by Melissa Wotherspoon. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.